All right, family. There you go. Ice Cube, and it's several other videos circulating out there, Big Rob.
Yes, sir. Yes.
With Cube talking about the contract with Black America. We want to, and Cube been taking some heat, and so we want to, we want to get an independent thinker on today. And in Detroit, we got the one and only poet Azizi Jasper. What's going on, Azizi? How you doing, brother?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? It's great to see you. Great to hear from you both again, man. It's been a long time.
Man, I didn't think we was gonna ever be able to talk to him no more after he did that poem for Farrakhan.
Yeah, that was major.
Yeah, much love, man. Much love. Y'all my peoples, man. No matter how long it goes, y'all my peoples.
That's right, man. Proud of you and proud of Jonathan, all you guys, what y'all been doing. I know you're in Detroit now, right?
Yes, absolutely. I've been in Detroit for the past about 7 years now, man. Time flies. It's crazy. Been chipping away at the rock here, man. I've part of a beautiful community of folks here, but my heart and my soul is still in West Michigan, man. West Michigan forever.
That's what's happening. Now, so what are your thoughts on Ice Cube, a contract with Black America that he seeked out help from Dr. Claude Anderson? He had a distinguished professor, I think from Harvard, one of those schools, or Ohio State, to help him out. What are your thoughts on what he was trying to do?
I think that what Brother Ice Cube was trying to do is admirable. Throughout history, we've had, since we've been in America, since we've been brought to America, you've had individuals that have been trying to make a contract with America to make things better for Black people. Whether it's activists, whether it's celebrities, heads of state, whatever the case may be, you've always had individuals that are trying to chip away at that rock. And I think that, Ice Cube isn't the first. He's certainly not going to be the last, but I commend the brother and I commend anybody that's politically engaged, that's trying to make a positive difference for our people.
Right. He took some criticism, though. Why do you think he took some criticism?
I think a lot of it is generational. I think oftentimes, you see the divide between the hip hop community and the elders, even though a lot of the hip hop community now is entering the elder community. There's still certainly a divide, and there's a mistrust between the youth, and the disconnect between the youth and those that have historically spoken for the youth and the rest of the people. So I think that you're seeing that with Brother Ice Cube. I think that you also see you have a lot of celebrities in the Black community that are thrust into positions of leadership and positions where they are they have masses following them, right, in a very real way. And I think there's a certain danger in that, so I understand those that are critical of our brother Ice Cube, but I don't necessarily agree with those that are critical of our brother Ice Cube, because I think anybody that's trying to make positive progress for our people is doing the right thing, and they should be embraced and they should be endorsed as opposed to criticized so easily.
Right. You posted something a couple of days. You laid out some of the things that Ice Cube have been able to do.
Yeah,
done.
definitely.
Can you share some of those things?
I mean, this is a brother that has managed to remain personally scandalous, right? Without any scandalous, LESS, not scandalous, but without a scandal for over a 30-year career. And he's been in Hollywood, he's in LA, right? So that speaks to the brother's character. He has a Black wife that he's been married to for 30 years. He's been outspoken in regards to politics and what I would consider Black nationalism for a very long time. He started his own Black-owned professional sports league that's been employing Black people since its inception a few years ago. And he's a brother that's always been political. So I don't think that this is necessarily a step that is surprising to those of us that have followed his career and been a fan of the brother. What I appreciate is he's been clear that it's not just him. He has as you said, elders at the table. He has educators at the table, intellectuals. He has Dr. Claude Anderson at the table, who's been working on a contract with Black America for some 20 years now. So it's a culmination of a lot of thinkers and a lot of people that have been doing the work outside of Brother Ice Cube. He's the face of it because he has the people power and he's the most recognizable name, but he's not the only person that's involved in this. And I think that's important to note.
How important for us to be independent thinkers and not to be solely just dive in with one party and don't even see no other options.
Right. I think that's extremely important. I think that, so I'm somebody that I consider myself to be an independent, but it just so happens that I always tend to vote Democratic. And there are several reasons for that. Now, we know that the Democrats, of course, are not without fault. We know that the party is not without not without racism. Of course, those are very real aspects of the Democratic Party, and those are really very real aspects of anywhere, really everywhere in America, right? But Black people are forced to every 4 years, the national election. Not speaking on the local tip, it's important to vote locally, and it's important to get to know your candidates locally because they literally are a phone call away. The president isn't accessible to the average person, but your local people, your aldermen, your councilmen, your commissioners, your sheriffs, those sorts of people are just a phone call away. So there's really no excuse in not being engaged and understanding those processes and those candidates. When it comes to the national election, though, Black people, I feel like, are very tired of, especially the younger generations, is tired of having to vote between what's commonly called the lesser of the two evils. Right. And there's a lot of mistrust that with our people, with the federal government, and that mistrust is rightful. Right. That was earned by the federal government because of years of things, backhanded tactics to disenfranchise us and keep us out of the political process and keep us from progressing politically. So those things are important to note, that a lot of the apathy that comes from our community, there's a long line of things that went into that mistrust. But I think that it's also important to not overly, you said be a free thinker, right? And I pride myself on being a free thinker, but you can't be such a conspiracy theorist that you negate your role in the process, right? And you scare yourself from participating in the process. Because frankly, I don't want the people that I disagree with making important decisions that I can't remove myself from because I'm a part of this government. I don't trust other people to make those decisions for me. So that's why I always participate in the process. But I do so after studying candidates, and I look at every candidate with a critical eye. This particular election, there's no choice other than Biden and Mrs. Kamala Harris. We saw what Trump is doing. We see what Trump is doing. We see how sick our nation is. We see that we're in the midst of a pandemic that's turned into an epidemic in America. We see that we're in the midst of a civil war. We see that we're in the midst of a recession, and businesses and small businesses keep closing. I don't know what people need to see. My community or the community at large really needs to see get much worse to understand that there's really no choice in this election other than Biden and Harris.
Now you're in Detroit. What are people saying in Detroit? Are they going to come out? Because a lot of folks stayed at home for Hillary Clinton. Are they coming out?
A lot of people stayed at home for Hillary Clinton, and a lot of people are going to stay at home for Joe Biden. I think that the party, Biden and Hillary both had the party's capital, but Bernie had the people capital both times. Bernie had people behind him. Bernie had a movement behind him, for better or worse. Biden and Hillary, neither of them did or do. So it's scary times, honestly, because I don't feel as though the party necessarily listened to the people. But there's also an element of a lot of people that initially supported Bernie are people that aren't necessarily a part of the formal and have been disenfranchised, and look at the process with the side eye. So a lot of those people didn't necessarily go out and vote. So we deal with that quandary where you have a lot of people that are frustrated year after year after year, and that frustration builds, and that frustration turns apathy when people don't see their candidates getting chosen, and they don't see any progress in the process.
Well, have you had a chance to look at Trump's platinum plan?
I have. I think that is my criticism of Brother Ice Cube and those that are involved with the Contract for Black America. I think that the timing is off. I think that this is something that should have been done well before the primaries, and the respective camps, the Republicans and the Democrats, should have had an amount of time to go over this and come up with a system of implementation so that we could truly see what each party was talking about, as opposed to essentially being gaslighted and told that we're going to do this, that, and the third simply because it's right before the election. The election is not when politics gets done. Politics gets done after the election, right? And it gets done up into the election. But right now, this is just advertising of everything that's been done. So Trump's platinum plan, so-called platinum plan, it's an insult. It's a slap in the face. But I do appreciate the fact that the administration was willing to sit down and meet at the table and have the discussion. Do I think anything's going to happen out of the Trump administration for Black people, from Ice Cube or otherwise, as positive? No, I do not. I'm very cynical in regards to that. I don't think anything positive is going to happen from the administration. But the illusion of having a seat at the table is better than not having a seat at the table at all and being told, wait until after the election and then we'll see what we can get done. I do appreciate
and that's what
them
the Democrats
being at the
told Q, right? That's what Democrats told Q. We'll get with you after the election.
We'll get with you after the election. But in all honesty, from a political perspective, that makes sense because we're in the midst of an election. Like, this is not when you get policy taken care of in the midst of an election. You get policy done after the election. That's when the politics happen. The election is advertising for the candidates, not what every candidate is working on right now. So any candidate that does say, okay, I'm going to sit down and talk to you and this is what's going to happen and I'm going to make this, that, and the third happen, is probably lying because they just simply want your vote.
Yeah, that's true. Rob, you got anything for Azizi?
Well, Azizi, I watched several of Ice Cube's interviews, and each one he was making a statement that, I was talking to the people that's in power now, right now. Not the people who you hope to be in power, but the people that are in power right now. And I thought that was very good and great for him to say and to actually do. Because there's a saying, if you ain't sitting at the table, you on the menu.
Absolutely.
And I think what he did was he put it out there, yes. Should he have done things a little differently? Yes, but we all could do things a little differently than what we did them, being critical of our own selves. But, I think what he did should not merit the backlash that he is getting, because like you said, Cube has been black and know he black for 30 years. Look, the police song, he wrote the majority of that. That was those songs back then was our ghetto news, or the news that we could relate to. I know you're a little younger than I am, and everything has almost been videotaped and all that kind of stuff now. But back then, it wasn't all of that. That's why the Rodney King videotape was so important. So important because there wasn't cameras around. Somebody just happened to have a camera shooting the camera.
Right.
So and I love what you wrote, brother. What you wrote on Facebook was very well thought out. You didn't join the bandwagon. You said, look at what he's done.
Right.
So thank you. I'm sorry, P. I didn't mean to get
No, it's good. It's a conversation. I'm saying hello to my daughter, Monica Nicole. down in Memphis, Tennessee. She says, I personally don't see anything wrong with him reaching out to meet with both parties. Facts and Fiction said people need to read and research. Mr. Jackson is trying to build more business, and he and black communities can create high level entrepreneurship. I guess he's talking about 50 Cent. Monica said, what has me skeptical is the Democratic Party always pushing black issues to the back burner. What are your thoughts on that, Azizi? You connected to all these different parties, man. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think black people's frustration comes from historically consistently fighting for a seat at the table, and not necessarily feeling as though we're there. Since the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party and Fannie Lou Hamer sat in on a Democratic convention. I forget what year that was. That was early '60s. I want to say 63. They sat in on the Democratic convention, and at the time, the Democrats were the Strom Thurmans and the Bull Connors of the world, devoted Southern racists, right? Overt racists that didn't want anything to do with a black person unless they were their slave, right? After the sit-in at the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party sit-in at the Democratic National Convention, there was a shift in the two parties. And the old racist Democrats shifted to the Republican Party, and the more progressive white folks shifted to the Democratic Party. And that's when black people in the Democratic Party began our dysfunctional marriage. But I think that the frustration that we see from our community comes from the fact that we don't necessarily organize within each other, within our own communities, from the grassroots on up. We don't know what's best for our neighbor and what's best for the neighbor across the street and what they want and what our community, right? The synergy. We don't have those conversations. So we don't do that within our own homes. We don't do that within our own neighborhoods. And because of that, we have a very dysfunctional national conversation, and it's difficult to get all of us on the same page. One of my other criticisms of the contract with Black America is that to have a contract, right, that means that two parties are in agreement, or several parties are in agreement.
They have to agree.
While this is something that I certainly appreciate, Brother Ice Cube and Brother Claude Anderson and the other intellectuals have come together and formulated this plan, too few people, it was sprung on us, and by us I mean black.
We lost the audio there for a second. We get it back?
Are we back?
Okay,
we back?
Yeah, we good.
All right, cool. Yeah. So I was saying there hasn't been really an agreement between Black America and between those that are writing, this contract. Even though I've had a chance to look at it and I like a lot of the things, we still need to be able to get on the same page and come to a consensus as far as what is needed. There are a lot of universal tenets. I think most of us agree on prison reform. I think most of us agree on public school reform, and but there are a lot of missing components. There's the land component. There are a lot of things in regards to reparations and things that many Black Americans know and feel as though we're owed, that are missing components as far as this contract of Black America. So if you're going to say Black America, you got to make sure that you include people, and you're not doing it from the top down, you're doing it from the bottom up. But for that to happen, that takes time and that takes a consensus, and it's very difficult to get all of us on one page because we're an incredibly diverse group of people.
Well, I commend Q on putting things in there like FCC licenses, judicial reform, prison reform, data and credit, and financial oversight. Some key things that he did put in there. I'm gonna go to some of the comments we got from online. Modaco, Black people need a centralized advocacy organization that has no ties to any party. That's where Black Lives Matter messed up. Their donation portal supports only Democratic candidates. That is a major flaw. Facts and opinions. Oh my, that's the title. That's their name. Stick to policy, action, and facts, not emotions. At least the red party met with him. The blue party pushed him away and said after the election, so Black Americans are not number one on their list. He also said, but the Hispanics are. They're about to make 11 million of them Americans. so they won't need us. Mo Nicole said, if we truly want to see all black people prosper, we must take party lines out of the picture and focus on facts. All Democratic policies do not benefit us. It's the same with Republicans. Definitely no argument there. Another comment online from Facts and Opinion says, check Black Lives Matter. Their accountant headquarters is in San Francisco with ties to mainland China. And also, that sound like Trump right there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Monica, for your comments. Jay, thank you for your comment. Jay, as we get ready, we got 13 days, man. Azizi, how do you feel?
I honestly do not know how to feel. I don't want to be confident. I know that Trump has been screwing up for the past, 4.5 years. But I also have seen him fall upward, right? And a lot of white people in this country, that's their story. No matter how many times you fail, you somehow still keep, rising upward. But so I don't want to really get confident. I know a lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people are apathetic. A lot of our people do not like Joe Biden.
Or
So
Kamala Harris.
or Senator Harris. And I'm one of those people that I don't want a prosecutor in that position, right? I don't really like the concept of a prosecutor being in charge of the highest office in the land. So I have my reservations as well. But at the end of the day, we need to fall in line and we need to understand where we are, but we also need to understand that things can get much worse. And because they have gotten much worse. As I said earlier, we're in the midst of a global pandemic that has turned into a national epidemic because of our so-called president's mishandling of the pandemic. We're dealing with a civil war because he consistently says things to incite right-wing extremists and white supremacists. We're dealing with somebody that overtly keeps the press out of meetings, and if the press does not agree with him, he's quick to walk off the meeting. I think the latest is 60 Minutes 2020. It's going to be coming out. He walked off. Right. So you don't, if the press doesn't have access to the president, that shows that the administration is not being transparent, even less transparent than prior administrations that gave the illusion of the press having access to everything. Right. So there's so many fundamental things that are wrong with the way that this person is going about the office of the presidency. I think that he's making a very strong argument for anybody but him. And I think that Black people at this point need to understand what's at stake and need to understand that right now, anybody but who is in the office currently is a better choice. And Joe Biden, while a lot of us don't like him, he's a very intelligent person. He has a lifetime of public service. And some of us have been pulling out different sound bites and these different things. Of course, his 94 crime bill was incredibly detrimental to Black people. We're not going to sweep that under the rug at all. But I think that Biden is at the point that after 40, 50 some odd years in service, you're going to have certain missteps. You're going to have things that you don't do right. You're going to have things that you wish you would have done better. But I think he's willing to listen. I think he's a much better listener than Trump is, and I think he's a lot smarter person, and he has an understanding of how to run government in a way that government doesn't get ran into the ground, and America in general as a whole will be in a much better place. And if America's in a better place, Black America will be in a better place as well.
We got some more online comments from Nutter Cunningham saying the federal founding baby bonds address reparations. And I'm going to pop that up on the screen, what she's talking about, the federal founding of baby bonds. This is from Ice Cube, Contract with Black America, passed a federal programming providing every child with a government-funded trust account at birth, starting at $1,000, as proposed by Senator Booker and Representative Presley, who is very progressive. Our sister Presley from Massachusetts. Accounts to be managed by the Treasury, and only those born into lower wealth families will receive more contributions each year, up to $46,500 total. that is dealing with reparations. Your thoughts on that?
Uh, when you talk about reparations for African descendants of slaves, we're talking trillions. We're talking hundreds of trillions of dollars. That sounds cute. That sounds like a pretty start to a very complicated and ugly process. But I don't want crumbs. I want to have a serious conversation because we already know it's been documented. It's been documented that we were promised 40 acres and a mule. At this point, they can keep the mule, but land is the most important thing. And trust funds and these different things for low income families, that doesn't scrape the tip of the iceberg as far as I'm concerned. And it also social welfare isn't what we're looking for. That sounds like a social welfare problem. That's very different from reparations.
Yeah. Some more online comments. Monaco, I prefer the devil. I can see over the devil that works behind closed doors only. Online from YouTube, Trump should have never ever been a choice. The red party ruined that, and the blue party is for the Hispanics. We need to create a party for black people. Jay Fortune in Orlando says, for black people, this election is a simple question. What's the status quo in this country? Biden, good enough to go back to? You know. All right. Monaco, there's a difference between listening and providing action. Monaco says Biden is all for social welfare, though. Good comments. We appreciate everybody on their comments. Azizi, is Biden going to win Michigan?
You know what?
You in Detroit, man. It's all on the D.
It's all on the D. It's always on the D, man. I think I'm scared, man. A lot of my friends here friends all the way from Fortune 500 to Section 8 are apathetic in regards to the political process, and it scares me, right? Because we know as the cities go, that's how the state goes. Everything surrounding the cities is always Republican, right? As soon as you step out of Detroit, as soon as you go to Livonia, as soon as you go to these different suburbs, you see Trump signs like instantaneously, right? So we know that that's the dynamic. And we also know that the suburbs, the surrounding areas are always going to vote. So every 4 years, it's dependent upon whether or not our urban cores get out. And I've been registering some people this election cycle, but I don't know that we have the energy behind it. I'm really leery to say that, that we're definitely going to take it. And I think that it's going to be a knockdown, drag out fight until the very end. So it's important that everybody hits the polls. Everybody takes it upon themselves to make that happen. And the mail-in voting as well, the absentee voting. I just got my dad an absentee ballot. He filled it out. So we have to make sure that we're getting as many people that are registered to vote to the polls in whatever way, shape, form, or fashion they can get there, be it mail-in or actually physically taking them to the polls, because a lot is at stake for this election.
Monaco says, fortunately, I don't see Biden winning Michigan. And if you don't sound too confident, if he don't win Michigan, Biden's going to be back in the Oval Office. So you might as well get ready for that, Big Rob.
Trump will.
I mean, yeah, Trump will. Yeah, 45. 45 would be number. I guess he's called 40. He'll still be 45, even though he get a second term. 45 would be there for a second term. Get ready for it, ZB.
If I can interject really quickly too, the elephant in the room is the electoral college. And that needs to be, if we as black people are talking about national politics and having a seat at the table, we have to have a serious look at dismantling the electoral college, because it's an outdated racist system that was developed in the South because the slaves outnumbered the white people, right? So if a vote counted for what a vote counts for, even as the 3/5 compromise, which happened around the same time that the electoral college was born, right. Even with the 3/5 compromise, slaves, the slave vote still outnumbered the white vote in the South. So what would have happened if the electoral college wasn't comprised, right? Slaves would have simply voted themselves out of slavery, right? So while it's said that it's because rural areas like Iowa and these different places, Nebraska, need the same representation that the Californias and the New Yorks have, the genesis of the Electoral College is rooted in slavery. It is rooted in marginalizing the Black vote. And where do the vast majority of Black people live in America now? In urban areas, in urban centers, and in the South. So it does the exact same thing. So when you had John Kerry, who won the popular vote, but still lost the electoral vote to Bush, right, giving us 8 years of Bush, and you had the same thing that happened with Hillary last go around. So we have to make sure that part of the contract with Black America, if we're serious about federal elections and we're serious about having a seat at the table, we need to have a serious conversation about abolishing the Electoral College.
Jay, in Orlando in 2016, the urban core turned out for blue, and the surrounding areas carried the state for red. He said he see that happening in Florida for this upcoming election. Mo Nicole, Memphis says Memphis and Nashville will always be blue. The rest of Tennessee that continuously carry it red. I'm ready for a purple party. Yeah, let's get the purple party. And you know, that's going to happen in Michigan too. Detroit is going to be blue. Lansing blue. Flint blue. Ann Arbor blue. Even Kalamazoo might be blue. The rest of the state, Saginaw might be blue. Rest of the state, woo, it's a red party. See a red.
Man.
And Muskegon will be blue. All right.
See, I agree with you on that too, Azizi. They need to. I've been saying that they need to get rid of that electoral college, and let that be. But what if Trump does this for Michigan or what he thinks he's doing for Michigan? You said something about it about a week ago, Paul. He releases Kwame Kilpatrick.
I was going to ask Azizi that. I looked at the time. Might as well go ahead and answer that question. That might
I'm sorry. I just was asking the question.
What happens if
I didn't know you was trying to Kwame out? We don't get to see Azizi that much, so I love his intelligence. I love.
What happens if he let Kwame out next week, man?
I appreciate y'all brothers, man. It would be smart politically. You would have a lot of Detroiters that will come out in support if you were to do that. I'm a advocate of Kwame being free. I think that the punishment was cruel and unusual. 28 years is that's a lot of time, man. There are rapists and murderers that have less time than that. So I think that it would be a smart political decision for Trump to make. And I would personally appreciate Kwame being free, but it wouldn't I wouldn't vote for Trump for freeing Kwame. If that's what they're asking now.
One last thing, Azizi, what book you reading?
Right now, I'm reading The Iceman's Inheritance by I believe it's Timothy Bradley. He's a Canadian European gentleman that gave a scientific analysis of where white people came from and kind of their beginnings and why their behavior toward the rest of the world is what it is. It's a fascinating book from somebody that's actually a white person.
There you go. Jay Fortune. Monica said if they let Kwame out, Michigan, he's winning Michigan and the White House. That's going to convince some old heads, Azizi. Obama didn't let him out, man.
Yeah, that's missed the opportunity. I'll tell you this: Trump could let Kwame out. He could let Mumia out. He could free Assata.
Captain Shakur. Oh, it's a wrap.
Hey, he could bring Sister Assata back, and based off of the past 4 years, I still probably wouldn't vote for him, but I would be very happy that our people are home, man. I'd be very happy.
Shakur, I don't know. I haven't committed my vote yet, but I might have to go public on that one, man. They're a leader right there.
I don't think Sister Assata wants to come back, but it would be a cool gesture across the aisle if he were to do that. But at the end of the day, Black people, we don't have any friends. John Henry Clark said that. So while we need our own political party, but we need our own political parties. It doesn't need to be just one thing. Sudan alone has 144 different language groupings. Just in Sudan, we as African people, Africans and African Americans, we're the most diverse biologically and thought-wise people on the planet because everything comes from us. All of these governmental systems, all of this comes from us, right? So it only makes sense that we're going to have disagreements and not necessarily going to all be able to get on one page. That's cool as long as we're organizing in our silos and in our greater silos get together, and there's still that synergy of organizing and moving forward. That's what's important. But our salvation is not going to come through the political process, though that is one aspect of things that can make things slightly easier for us. So I do encourage us to participate, but don't make that the end all and be all.
All right. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Gave us 42 minutes of your time. I'm let you go back to making Detroit great again.
Hey, man, I appreciate y'all, brothers, man. Much love to y'all. I look forward to seeing you both in person in the near future.
No doubt, Azizi. Blessings, brother. Blessings.
Much love. Peace.
What's up? Hey, great job, man. We got to edit this up, put it on radio. We'll talk to you later.
Bet. Got you.
All right.